Hi guys, and welcome back to my Evilness podcast. Sorry that the last one ended so abruptly. I got a bit carried away and ran out of time, but figured there was no point doing like a 30-second part 2. So thank you if you listened to the Jacob Weddling case, which was a rather interesting one. But today we are going to be talking about Grace Millane, who was born on the 2nd of December in 1996. She was 22 when she was murdered. So Grace was murdered by Jesse Kempson, who initially had his name suppressed. He was sentenced to 17 years in prison. He was 17 years non-parole. He was sentenced to life in Auckland's High Court on the 14th of February 2020. So Jesse had been assessed in his pre-sentencing report as being very high risk based on his complex needs and the severity of the offending. Manual strangulation is a particularly intimate form of violence. Cold-blooded, Moore had said. Moore is Justice Simon Moore, who was overseeing the sentencing. Your actions reveal a complete disregard for your victim. You didn't ring for an ambulance nor call the police. Instead, you embarked on a well-planned and sustained and coordinated course of action to conceal any evidence of what had occurred in your room. There was no emotion shown by Jesse as he was found guilty of Grace Millane's murder. He listened to his sentencing impassively. Grace Millane, originally from Essex. Her parents were David and Gillian Millane. She had arrived in New Zealand on November 28th as part of a round-the-world trip. She died in December 2018 at the City Life Hotel. Manual strangulation during sex in Jesse's hotel room in central Auckland. They had met on Tinder, had a date in Auckland CBD. They went to Sky City, Andy's Burger Bar, before going back to Jesse's hotel. After Millane's death, Jesse packed her body into a suitcase and buried her in the Whitaker Ranges, a bushland area west of New Zealand's largest city. Her remains were found 8 days after she had died. Her parents appeared via video link at the trial, with a framed photograph of Grace hung on the wall behind them. Grace's brothers were also present, as were extended family, and the public gallery was packed to capacity, especially with young women. Gillian Millane said losing Grace had made her depressed, suicidal, anxious, and she delivered her victim impact statement to the courtroom with a mixture of anger and tears. Jesse Kempson, found guilty of her murder, bowed his head as Gillian spoke, appearing to cry. It was the most emotion he had shown throughout the murder trial. David Millane did not deliver a statement, but his wife said the impact on him had been profound and she had been unable to support him as she too had been sick and incapacitated with grief, including being unable to get out of bed, leave the house, or even listen to the radio. The tears I have shed are never ending at the thought of never having the chance to be able to kiss my darling Grace goodbye, said Gillian. Grace was never just a daughter. She was my friend, my very best friend. I torment myself over what you did to my Grace, the terror and pain she must have experienced at your hands. As a mother, I would have done anything to trade places with her. I should have been there, but she died terrified and alone in a room with you. The Crown Prosecutor, Brian Dickey, said the man's crime against Grace had been personalised, depraved and callous, and the crime had a profound impact on young women's sense of safety in New Zealand, with many reassessing their relationships with men on dating sites and how safe they should feel. The man's consumption of explicit pornography and intimate photographs taken of Grace after she had died were evidence of the depravity, Dickey argued. He said his disposal of her body in a suitcase in a shallow grave made made it a unique case in New Zealand for its extensive cruelty during and after her death, and its wide ramifications in the community, especially for women. Ian Brookie, the defence counsel, argued the man was young at the time of the murder, had no significant prior criminal convictions, and could be rehabilitated with a lower sentence of 10 years. Jesse maintained his innocence throughout. Brookie had also said that the man was isolated from his Maori culture, estranged from his family, and had a traumatic childhood and upbringing. In November 2019, a jury of 7 women and 5 men took 5 hours to find the 28-year-old Jesse Kempson guilty of Grace Millane's murder. The prosecution argued that he had used reckless violence while strangling Grace during sex and disregarded the risk to her life when choking her so hard and for so long that she died. A forensic pathologist said it would have taken 5 to 10 minutes for Grace to have died, and she would have first fallen unconscious due to the pressure on her neck. "You can't consent to your own murder," said Brian Dickey during the 3-week trial in Auckland's High Court. Jesse Kempson, found guilty of Grace's murder, had a long history of Tinder dating, with a number of his former dates cutting off contact because they felt uncomfortable with his behaviour. The accused lived in an inner-city hotel, had reported an interest in choking and domination, and a history of telling exaggerated stories and lies, including that he had cancer, was a professional athlete, and worked as an oil manager offshore. Ironically, during his first police interview, Jesse had stated that they had met at the burger bar, so if she wasn't who she said she was, at least he would feel safe. The man was shown a photograph and identified himself and Grace. He said after that they went their separate ways. He said he had walked down Victoria Street to the bottom, hung a left, and headed towards the viaduct. But incriminating phone data showed he had used Google to browse websites for large duffel bags, suitcases, and car hire to dispose of Grace's body after she had died. He had also searched online for information on flesh-eating birds, asking are there vultures in New Zealand, as well as the hottest fire, large bags near me, and Whitaker Ranges, as well as rigor mortis at 6 a.m. Police found her body in a shallow grave in bushland just a few metres from a scenic drive in the Whitaker Ranges in West Auckland. Kiwi law... This is explaining the suppression. No, it's not. This is explaining some reason behind the suppression. This was the initial reason that it was believed his name was suppressed, but it wasn't the actual reason, which I'll get to a little later. So, Kiwi law gives suspects and alleged victims the right to ask a court to have their name suppressed, making it illegal for it to be made public in the country. This aims to protect defendants who are presumed innocent until proven guilty, and the privacy of alleged victims, and to ensure a fairer trial. New Zealand law says that the court has to be satisfied that the publication of the person's identity would cause a hardship to the person charged, create a risk of prejudice to the trial, or endanger the safety of any person. Of any person, including anyone connected with the defendant. Name suppression can also be granted in cases where publication could lead to the identification of someone whose name is suppressed. In March of 2020, Auckland-based Rachel Reid QC confirmed that an appeal had been filed in the New Zealand Court of Appeal. With 39 witnesses over nearly 3 weeks, CCTV was shown that showed the two kissing and later Grace and Jesse, and later embracing as they walked towards the City Life Hotel at 9:40 p.m. They were seen on CCTV entering the apartment where Jesse lives and getting into the lift there. They head up to the 3rd floor. Shortly after Jesse's early morning internet searches, CCTV footage shows him leaving the City Life Hotel. He goes to the warehouse at the atrium and bought a suitcase. Then he went back to his room. He put Grace in there and left again to get cleaning products. Later that morning, he took a taxi to a car rental company on Victoria Street. He hired a car and returns to the hotel. He then removes Grace's remains to the boot of the car. At 4 p.m, he goes on a date with another woman. He then hires a rug doctor carpet cleaner. In the early hours, he leaves the hotel in the car with Grace, or Grace's body. He drives to Communo and purchases a shovel from ITM and then travels to Scenic Drive, digs a big hole and buries the suitcase. He takes the car to a washing facility in St. Luke. He drops his clothes and shoes off at a dry cleaner's. He disposes of Grace's property in a bin at Albert Park, and then he goes to a chemist to buy medication for a rash on his hand. On the 5th of December, detectives access Grace's Facebook profile. They see a comment on a photo from Jesse and message him. Grace's brother supplies police with her log information and they access her private messages. On December 6th at 5:22 a.m, Jesse takes an Uber to Mission Bay. He stays 8 minutes and then catches another Uber back to the city. Later that morning, he replies to the police Facebook message. Police meet up with him at the Crown Plaza and speak about Grace. He claims he last saw her at about 10 p.m. on the 1st of December. It was that afternoon that the police viewed the access logs on the CCTV and access logs that City Life Hotel have of Jesse's apartment. Police released an image of Grace at Sky City from the CCTV footage to the media. She was wearing a black dress with white Converse shoes. On the 7th of December, police confirmed new sightings of Grace at City Life. A scene examination begins in Jesse's apartment. Police confirm a vehicle of interest has been located. They also confirm that Grace is no longer alive. Just before 9 p.m, Jesse is charged with murder. That night, he confesses to police that Grace died in his apartment. He admits to disposing of the body and then takes police to the gravesite. On December 9th, police reveal a body has been found in the Whittaker Ranges. Detective Inspector Scott Beard later confirms the body is that of Grace Millane. On the 10th of December, the convicted murderer appears in the Auckland District Court. He appealed the initial name suppression, keeping his identity secret, but that suppression remained in place at that time. On November 4th, 2019, the trial for the defendant begins in the High Court of Auckland. On November 22nd, jury found Jesse, 27, guilty of murder in the High Court of Auckland. He will be sentenced on the 21st of February. So he got this 10 years non-parole with the life sentence, and it was later established that Jesse's name was actually suppressed because he had 2 trials for sex crimes against 2 other women. The first woman was a former partner, and Jesse was convicted of sexual violation, assault, and threatening to kill this woman. The second woman was another woman that Jesse had met on Tinder, which ended with a rape conviction. Sentencing for these crimes is yet to have taken place, but he is already serving a life sentence for the murder of Grace Millane. So that is it for today's true crime story. Thank you so much for listening. I will get another one done really soon. Bye.